The JLR interview series.
Okay, so it's just after 6 p.m. on Saturday, 6th November, and just after 2 p.m. in New York time, because today we have a very nice guest with us on Jazz on the Radio, and her name is Adi Meyerson, a bass player. So how are you this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, so it's really good to get you on today because Adi brought out a really interesting album, which we've been featuring on Jazz on the Radio last 2 to 3 months. Been featuring it on latest releases and on female instrumentalists. So really nice to get you to come and talk about it. And it's called I Want to Sing My Heart Out in Praise of Life. So that's quite a title for me to get out.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I imagine the album's got a concept to it because the track titles are parts 1 to 6, I think. So yeah, can you tell us more about this record?
Sure. And thanks again for featuring it. I'm glad that you guys like it
Yeah,
and
no.
are enjoying it. So the album is kind of I guess you can call it a 6-part suite of music. So part 1 to 6. And it was initially and originally conceived. I was inspired by the art and the life of Japanese avant-garde artist Yayoi Kusama, who you probably have heard of. So yeah, the initial idea came to me while I was seeing an exhibit of hers in New York a while ago in like 2017, I think it was, or 2018, and I kind of was like inspired by the paintings and her life story and her concept of like trying to create like a safe space in her art for people to escape, and kind of how she was doing it for herself while struggling with mental health and just the struggles of being a woman in the 1960s living in New York. Yeah, and it's kind of morphed and changed. We had a global pandemic. We still have a global pandemic, and I made the album during that time, and kind of just like from the time the original idea came about until the music was actually written and composed, it kind of like a lot of more personal aspects were added to it, just like kind of my idea of like a utopian world and stuff. But that's the general concept. And I used a lot of more like literal a lot of like literal translations between like color and pitch and rhythm as compositional tools to actually like write the music. So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So when you went to see this exhibition, because they say it's 2017, so it's quite a while back now. So you always had the intention of creating this record, or did the pandemic sort of accelerate the idea, or how did that happen?
So it was funny because I had the idea. The idea was kind of planted in the back of my head, and then I think the year after that, I started going to grad school, to Manhattan School of Music, and one of our assignments was to write some music inspired by something that isn't music, like inspired by some
All
kind of
right.
art form. So I was like, oh, this is something I've always wanted to do. Like, why don't I look into this a bit? So that's kind of when I started exploring it, and it started out as like a 3-piece, and then I kind of
All right.
discarded some of the older stuff and switched it up and took certain parts. And kind of when I decided like, oh, I kind of want to expand on this, and I applied for some funding um, through New York Foundation of the Art. So the more I read up about Kusama and her life and just kind of like everything I was going through in New York, I felt like it was a project that I wanted to present. So I actually received funding from NIFA, which is the organization, literally like a week before the world shut down. They let me know that we got the funding for the project, and
Oh,
then
wow.
everything shut down. So that was kind of like the timeline of this. And then I was kind of like, all right, so I guess I have to record this album at some point when it is safe again. But it also gave me a lot of time to like really reflect on the music and the message in the music and to kind of change things and have that time with myself and be able to find the right sound, the right people, the right band, and like what I really want to. I was able to make this project in a way that I really wanted to make it without being under any time like time
constraints,
constraints, yes, and financial constraints too. So it was really nice, and I'm really happy with how it came out.
So like when you was creating the record, because of the pandemic situation, did that change the way how you would usually record in the studio? Did you change anything up?
I think the coolest thing about it really was no one was really doing anything. Like we were all just home in New York. There wasn't much going on. There weren't shows. It was because I recorded it in November of 2020. So there weren't any like live shows or tours, and nothing was really happening. So I was really able to, the band was like very much available in that sense. Like everyone was available. So I was able to have 2 rehearsals and have a full day in the studio. And it felt a lot more relaxed, I think, than usually when our crazy New York lives are happening and people are like coming in and out of the city, like done with the studio, going to a gig, getting on a flight, coming back, like coming from the airport to the rehearsal. So there was a little bit of like a relaxed energy, which I think definitely contributed to the music making process, which was cool. But I mean, of course, we had to all get tested and wear masks, and there's like a lot of like anxiety, I think, around it too, because it was still at the beginning and people weren't really used to being in spaces together, and we didn't have the vaccination, so everything was like a little stressful. But it was actually, it was relaxed and stressful at the same time. I have to say, like there is something really beautiful about it.
That's a good point actually, because we are going back exactly 12 months ago, so it's not quite the situation we've got now, which is we're kind of in between, aren't we? We're not sure what the state of the situation, whether we might go back into lockdown. I suspect we will in Europe at some point.
Really?
I don't know what the situation is, over there in New York.
New York is pretty opened. Like we're pretty busy, which is a blessing, I guess, but also people are very cautious, or some people are very cautious. It really depends on where you are in the country. But I've definitely in New York, and the community in New York has definitely been feeling everything coming back, and tours inside the US are coming back, and things are happening. And kind of feels like everyone's trying to get like everything in before the winter happens, because they're just like, all right, just gonna do it, gonna do as much as we can.
That's what I was thinking, really, because it's busy. Like it's busy in London as well, but because it's getting colder and stuff, that might bring the virus back some more, things like that.
Right.
So that's the other thing I'm thinking. But you're absolutely right. It is great to see, and there's sport on and everything as well. So that's great. And can I just ask you then, so about the title of the album? It's got a nice ring to it. It's almost like like songs of praise or something,
Yeah, that was the idea, kind of. Well, Kusama does have a painting titled, that's like a title of one of her paintings. And I saw the painting and I kind of was like, oh, I want to write a song. Like, I love this phrase and I love the art. And I just was like, let me write a song that kind of concludes the message of the album, which is really like, we all kind of deal with life, its hardships and the easy things, and mental health, and how to like navigate and maneuver through your life as a person. And I kind of wanted to like leave the listener with a little bit of a prayer, or like a hymn, praise song, just saying like, kind of being thankful for life, just the fact that life exists in that sense, was kind of the concept and the idea I was going for. I'm not really sure what she was going for in her painting, but that was what I took out of it. And so
it's nice. So it's well, I get that. I get the feeling when I listen. It's quite an upbeat record, basically.
It's what
message that you're conveying. When I listen to it, that's the feeling I get. It's quite an upbeat record. Yeah. And how about the musicians? Can you tell us who the musicians are? And also, you got vocalists as well.
I do. So let's see. We'll start the horn section. We have Anne Drummond on flute, who's incredible. I love her. All these musicians are incredible, and I love each and every one of them. And the vibe in the studio was so good. Like just, we all kind of got along, and it was just such a fun session. We had such a good time. So we had Anne on flute, and then we have Lucas Pino on bass clarinet, and he plays saxophone on one song. Also incredible improvisers. We have Marquise Hill on trumpet, who you guys probably know. We have Kush Abadi on drums, who's also, all of them are amazing. Like I really, Kush is one of the first people I met when I moved to New York. So I think he's like out of that whole band is like the person, my oldest collaborator. Mm-hmm. And then we have Sam Towes on keys and synths, who I met during grad school, who's also incredible. And then vocalists, we have Sabeth Perez, who I also met during grad school on vocals, and Camille Thurman, who is a guest vocalist as well, and also an amazing saxophone player. Each one of these artists are like, they have their own records out, they have their own bands, they're just all-star group of people. And we also have Ed and Germa, who's actually based in London, on spoken word on the first track. Wow. So they're amazing too. And I met them during my time at Banff, which is a workshop for creative music back in 2018. And I always was like, I want to collaborate with you. So I'm glad it worked out, even with the distance.
Yeah, no, that's great. So yeah, well done. And yeah, you put together something really great for everyone to enjoy, really. So yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I feel like there's something in it for everyone. Like it starts out a little weird, and then I kind of look at it as like an upside down triangle. Like it's really like, kind of more free and open, and then it kind of just like scales down into like song form towards the end.
Yeah. I mean, there's free and open, and then sometimes, like some artists have a knack of linking the two together better than other artists, to my ears anyway. And I think what you've done is you've got the balance really nice. So quite right. So I think that's good. So, I just want to talk about yourself next. Obviously you play double bass in the album.
I do play double bass in the album.
Yeah. So really, I just wanted to, bass has always been one of my favorite instruments as well, both bass guitar and acoustic. So yeah, how did you get into bass playing?
How did I get into bass playing? I started on electric when I was in the US they call it middle school, but I went to a school that goes from 7th to 12th grade because I grew up in Israel. And yeah, I got accepted. It was an art school. I got accepted as a visual artist, and I kind of always wanted to play music, but I couldn't really find the instrument that I wanted. And it's kind of funny because like I just started hanging out with the musicians in the school, and they didn't have a bass player in my year, and we became really close, and they got me into like Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith and stuff. And then I had some money saved up, and I was like, I think I'm gonna buy a bass. So I bought a bass, and I reached out to one of the seniors in our school. I think he was in 11th or 12th grade, so maybe juniors or seniors, and he was like the hotshot bass player. And I was like, hey, can you teach me bass? So he did. So I kind of like started out learning by myself, and then I took some lessons from him, and I ended up joining the music program at the school, and kind of got into like jazz, but more like fusion jazz, like Weather Report and Uzeb and Victor Wooten and all that. Yeah, nobody knows Uzeb in the United States.
Yeah, they're Canadian.
I feel like in Europe, they're Canadian, but they were huge in Israel, and like I think they were pretty big in Europe too.
Yeah.
But in the US, everyone's like, who's that? But I loved them. They were the best. They were my favorite. Them and like a bunch of, but I mean, I kind of like knew who Mingus was, and I kind of knew a little bit about Duke Ellington, and I knew about Blakey. Like, I didn't really like know, but I kind of knew about it. And then around, I think in like 11th grade or something, somebody gave me a bunch of jazz records, and I kind of started listening to that, and we kind of started like talking about it in school a little bit. And I was like, oh wow, this is some other stuff. Like I want to sound like this. Like how do I make this thing sound like that? And then after I graduated, I picked up upright because I realized I couldn't quite get the sound I was looking for on electric. So I picked up upright, and that was it. So I started when I was 18. I've recently come back to electric bass. Like I took a long break from it. And the last like few years I've been coming back to it and playing more gigs on it in different kinds of styles and different kinds of music. And it's been really fun to be able to play both and to do different kind of things.
I suppose you're in, when you get to that, though, you're an exclusive company, aren't you? Because there's not that many who could play both like equally well.
Right. I'm still trying to get my chops on electric to be like super high. But I'm definitely starting to gain more confidence on it, and I'm enjoying playing like, pop and soul and R&B and that kind of stuff on it. And like more of the jazz stuff I usually do on upright, but definitely trying to get both at the same level so I can really double on both and do it.
So what electric, what brand do you use, or are you sponsored or anything like that?
I am sponsored. Well, I'm an Aguilar artist, so I use Aguilar's amps when I can on the road as much as possible, and I have them at home too. But I have a Fender Mustang, like a newer Mustang version. And I'm in the market for a good P bass, or if anyone wants to sponsor me. No, I'm always looking. I have a friend of mine is like letting me house his Callow Hill bass, his 5-string, and I love playing that bass too. That's a fun one. But I usually play the Mustang. And yeah, hopefully get a couple more out there soon. And the more electric bass I play, I'm like, the more basses I want.
Yeah. But what about acoustic bass? I mean, is there a brand that you use? Because I'm not that au fait on acoustic bass, like brand names or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't much like brand names, I guess, when it comes to acoustic basses. Like I think there's a handful of makers like that are like quite popular around the world. Like Shen basses are like a good beginner bass. It's a Chinese brand. And then Juzek basses seem to be popular, K basses, but like I don't think any of these basses are being manufactured anymore. So the thing with upright bass is like, I think the older the instrument, usually the better they say it is. Like an old instrument sounds a different way than like a newer instrument that comes straight out of a factory. But it's a little bit more like personalized and curated in that sense, where like, a maker would make an upright bass or something. So I have an old upright. I don't know anything about it. It doesn't have a tag or a label inside.
Right.
I bought it from the New York store from David Gage. Someone brought it in on consignment, and that's just kind of how usually uprights work. Like, they're try to go to a luthier and like whatever they have, and then you kind of just play them and figure out which one you like. But I think my bass is like they appraised it. They said it's around 100 and something years old. It looks like it maybe it was made in like the Czech Republic or something. Like they really don't know, but it's fully carved. It's beautiful.
Incredible.
I love it. Yeah, it was one of the situations where I came in to bring my old bass to get fixed, and they had this one laying around, and I was kind of messing around with the basses, and I played it, and I was like, wait, I think this is the one. Like I was kind of like, I need to buy this bass no matter what. So that's what happened.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you mentioned Aerosmith earlier. I remember seeing them decades ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. That was a unique experience, actually. It was at Wembley Arena, and for about 3 days, my ears were ringing because I was right close to the stage, and they were so loud.
I bet.
But it was good.
I've always wanted to see one of these bands live, but like, they're so, at this point, like, they're not really like playing like they used to. So
yeah. Sometimes, you're lucky you get to see things that, but you're going to be like that as well. 20 years from now, you'll be looking back saying, "Oh, yeah, I saw them." I could ask you just another thing about bass playing. There's not that many female bass players around. There's a few, but it's not a huge amount. There's some really great ones. So obviously, Esperanza Spalding, Tina Weymouth, and others. Do you see yourself as a role model, or or anything like that, or inspiring anyone to pick up the bass, or is that not something that you think about much?
I used to not think about it that much. I kind of was just like, I play bass, whatever. But the more educational things I end up doing, and like the older I get, I do think about it more, and I get to experience it more, because they see me. I do when I go into schools and do clinics or teach at jazz camp, or like teach kids, and the young girls see someone that like looks like them, or someone that is like them, and they see it and they're like, oh, I didn't realize this is something I can do, so I guess I'll do it. And it's nice to see more young girls like picking up the instrument, because they see the visibility. They see more women playing bass, so they're like, well, these people can do it, so I can do it too. And it does feel inspiring, and I do want to be a role model for these young girls, because like there's absolutely no reason why they should not play it if they want to play it. If they like the instrument, and they feel that it speaks to them, then there's no reason why they shouldn't do it.
Yeah, great. No, I'm pleased to hear that. So yeah, keep inspiring then. Just do what you're doing, and that's the main thing, isn't it?
Right. I mean, and just having the visibility, and I guess it does matter. The representation does matter, because like I didn't have a lot of female musician role models to look up to when I was younger. There was like maybe like one or two that I was like, oh, they do that. But it's also my personality, but also like the community where I grew up, and the country where I grew up, and like just the way things are where I grew up. It's like it never was like, no one ever told me that I can't do it. Let's put it that way. I just kind of did what I wanted, because I was like, I want to do this, so I'm gonna do it. And no one discouraged me. No one told me like, oh, this isn't for you. But I feel like in the United States, and maybe different places too, the way the school system is set up, it's different. And the way people get treated is different. And I do hear a lot of the times from these young girls that people tell them they can't do it because of a certain thing. And that shouldn't be it. So when they see people that are doing it, they realize, oh, I actually can do this, no matter what some boy says to me or some teacher says to me, because this person is doing it.
Okay, no, that's really good, and yeah, I agree with everything you said, and long may that continue. Okay, so I just need to ask a couple more things before we finish up. And really, what I want to ask is, do you have any plans to tour Britain or Europe?
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. Yes. Like the big answer is yes. And I love seeing the response that Europe has had to the record. And I think it's really beautiful. And I'm like excited to bring this project to Europe at some point. I don't know when that will be. Also because of the situation in the world, but also like, it's more just the situation in the world. We're just like, nobody knows. But I would absolutely love to come, and it's going to happen in the future.
Okay.
Maybe 2022, maybe 2023. I don't know. Maybe
okay. I assume you got all the social media and the website. We could keep an eye.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just tell us what it is quickly?
Absolutely. So I think the one I use most is Instagram, and my handle is like my name, ADI, and then BOP, Adi Bop. I'm also on Twitter, Adi Meyerson, and on Facebook, Adi Meyerson, and I have a website. It's adimyersonmusic.com. And yeah, I try to keep everything up to date. I play as a side, as a side person. I play with some different bands. So maybe hopefully.
Yeah, as well.
Come through to the UK like with someone else first or something. I don't know, but hopefully I'll be able to bring this project to Europe, because I would love to play this music live for everybody.
Yeah.
It's the thing about making an album in the pandemic. It's like playing it live is like kind of a new thing to me, because we didn't get to play the music, like workshop the music first in that sense. So I've only played like, I think maybe 2 shows with an audience, one without an audience of this music live. So like I'm still like trying to book things and get it together. And I feel like the touring life of this album is going to be a lot more like long-lived.
Yeah, okay.
In that sense. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that. And I will definitely, just keep an eye on and see how that develops.
Yes.
So okay. So that's fantastic. Just want to say really thanks for this interview of Jazz on the Radio. And thanks for this great record. We really enjoyed it a lot.
Of course. Thank you so much for your support and for playing it. I'm glad you guys are liking it.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Well, thanks a lot then. Thanks.
Kabocha.かぼちゃのことを考えると、私の心は温かい気持ちでいっぱいになる。かぼちゃ、なんて素晴らしい響きなんだろう。かぼちゃ、私かぼちゃ大好きなの。かぼちゃのことを考えると、食べ物のことを考えたりするかもしれないけど、とっても大きくてユーモラスで、みんなの心を温かく捉えてくれる。かぼちゃ。
The JLR Interview Series.